Yeah, we're good.
Hi, so Andy Neave, I'm club coach for the juniors at Stafford Canoe Club, and also my day job I teach at the Outdoor Education Centre at Shugborough. So big involvement in the outdoors and down at the club here, a lot of evenings in the week and involvement at the weekends. And I've been coaching juniors at the club for probably 30 odd years, and that includes my daughter Lizzie, who obviously has just returned from the Olympics, having had, I guess, a bit of a mixed time, so that's the nature of the sport. I canoed a little bit at school and a little bit at college. Then I started teaching at Lanes in Stone in 1980, and in 1983 I joined the canoe club. As I say, I've been here and involved ever since. So 30 years next year. So.
Wow. So
I think canoeing is many different types of canoeing, and some people want to go canoeing, but they're not quite sure which element of canoeing. You know, here at Stone, it's very much competition canoe slalom, and at Trent, for example, they've got a lake. So it's more sprint canoeing, canoe polo on the flat. So I think you do what suits the environment. Some people might just want to go off down the canal. Some people don't want to go near white water. But here it very much is competition canoeing, and it leads on to white water. And that's what we're about. Yeah.
Okay. And with regards to Lizzie, like when did you? I presume like you started training her up from a young age.
Yeah, my involvement was always coaching juniors, so initially with kids from Lanes High School. That led on after I moved to the Outdoor Centre at Shugborough. I then started coaching a group in the sort of late 80s, early 90s that included Laura Blakeman. Laura was one of our most successful juniors and went to the Sydney Olympics. So that was a sort of a good sort of junior that came through the ranks of the club. And then in time, when my children were old enough, then they started to have a go. So I've got a son, Rob, as well. He's 2 years older than Lizzie, and they both started canoeing and progressed right through. Rob sort of gave up sort of a competitive approach to the sport about 3 years ago, and he's now training to be a doctor. So he still canoes, loves canoeing, but obviously can't pursue it to sort of the top level anymore.
In regards to, again, suppose Lizzie, like I know she would try to get to Beijing, but she didn't qualify. But then she made it into London 2012, and she sort of came through like the heats and kind of astounded everybody, like in the first heat, and then obviously went on to the semi-final and wasn't as lucky. But I mean, just to compete in the Olympics, I mean, what was that process like? What was she, you know?
Well, I think if we take it back to Beijing, Lizzie had a serious shoulder injury towards the end of 2006, which recurred in 2007. So she had to have an operation on her shoulder at the end of 2007. So that effectively ruled out any possibility of doing the selection races for Beijing. So she was unable to compete then. So she returned to competition in 2008 and built back up. Got back into the Great Britain senior team in 2009. And really since 2009 she's always been in the Great Britain senior team. She's had, each year she's had one outstanding race, and it's always been a bronze medal. So in 2009, bronze at the World Championships, 2010, bronze in a World Cup race, 2011, bronze in the European Championships, 2012, this year, bronze in another World Cup race. So she's always kind of had the potential to be there. London, she obviously paddled outstandingly well at the selection races. She wasn't favourite, but she won all the races, so that gave her the place in the Great Britain team. And then at the Olympics, the qualification race, paddled supremely and got that second place, which I guess put added pressure on, as if there wasn't enough pressure already. yeah, perhaps some expectation was put on her shoulders, and unfortunately, the semi-final didn't quite work out. She hit 3 gates, which is too many penalties. That's the big crunch. You might get away with hitting 1, you couldn't get away with hitting 3.
Yeah.
So,
to be part of like the Olympic Village, and that kind of scene with all the athletes sort of locked in there, basically almost on the world stage. I mean, that must have been such an enormous buzz for her.
I think it was just an incredible opportunity, and no matter what the outcomes of her race, the opportunity to be there, to be part of Team GB, to experience it all, was just an opportunity of a lifetime. In terms of the future, if she continues, and at the moment she says she will, but she's still quite young. If you look at a lot of the girls that do well, they tend to be sort of more late 20s. The boys that got medals, they're all sort of 29, 30, the gold medalist 33. So it is a sport where you can do well later. So she certainly wouldn't be too old for Rio, but whether she wants to make that 4-year commitment to try and get there again. I think at the moment there's a period of review and reflection, and she'll have to make those decisions.
Sure. I mean, what's kind of the commitment with training-wise when, like, at that level? Like,
I suppose a typical week would be in the region of 10 to 12 training sessions. That would be training sessions on the water in Lizzie's case. I think a lot of the paddlers will do a lot of work in the gym as well, but at the moment Lizzie's backed away from that and concentrated on the paddling on the white water. So I think most weeks leading into the Olympics it would probably be, I think, 4 days with 2 sessions, 2 days with 1 session and 1 complete rest day. So 10 sessions.
Yeah, pretty intense.
Yes, yeah. And then lots of other stuff going on as well.
Yeah.
That's just the out-and-out training.
Yeah. So as a parent, I mean, what's it like to sort of see your sort of your child go through that? Your daughter, like, you must be tremendously gratifying, and
yeah, she's worked incredibly hard. She's got to where she's got. There's nothing to do with anyone else at the end of the day, and people can help, but it's down to her training and her whole input into everything that she does to work towards the top of the sport. And then when to see her paddling, you obviously feel for her. You share the success, but when the disappointments as well. And I think in most sports, perhaps there's potentially more disappointments than success.
Yeah. Particularly
in a sport like canoe slalom, because it's just so variable. You wouldn't say that anyone stands out in the girls in the world. It just gets shared around who performs on the day. You
just can't predict the water.
Well, it's just so technical, and I think it's when you look at BMX and how that pans out. If you look at perhaps aspects of skiing, where there's so much that can go wrong that you want to be the one that gets it all right.
Yeah.
Very different to perhaps sort of athletics, swimming, where perhaps you're just looking to set a time, but no, you've got to deal with a lot more in canoe slalom.
Yeah. And you volunteered in the Olympics. I mean, what did sort of that entail? Like, what were you doing?
Well, my role, I was part of the field to play team. So, a guy called Dave Royal, who's a member of this canoe club, he headed up the field to play team, and then there was about another 10 volunteers working with him. So our responsibility was to hang the poles over the course. So the 2 international course designers, Thomas Schmidt and Marion Agrilon, they designed the course. Then we have to hang the poles in the right place, tie them up properly, make sure they don't fall down when the course gets changed. between the qualification and the semi-finals, then we have to change the course. So that was sort of the main role. And then also on race days, we had to act as what are called judges runners. So when the competitors go down the course, then the judges have a score sheet. And when they've completed their score sheets, they have to be collected in and taken to the scoring office as soon as possible, so that all the results can be verified, so that the results that you think you've got at the finish are then double checked to make sure that it's all fair and square.
Okay. So, I mean, what did you make of the Olympics? Like, how do you think they, do you think they were a success?
Yeah, it was just amazing. The atmosphere and the support for Team GB was just incredible. From my involvement at the Slalom, we also attended a day at the sprint, Canoe sprint, and then just what you see on the telly, just amazing.